So, starting this campaign, all of you are dealing with your friends, your family, your neighbors, and why should they vote a Libertarian? Why should they vote for the Libertarian candidate for president? Well, here's what you tell them. You start out by telling them who the Libertarian nominee is.
The other Gary Johnson.
And that would be me, Gary Johnson. And I'd like you to tell them that Gary Johnson has been an entrepreneur his entire life. That Gary Johnson started a one-man handyman business in Albuquerque in 1974 and actually grew it to over 1,000 employees over a 20-year period. And there's an education and an experience that goes along with that that I think is really important. And there were a lot of things I learned with that experience growing a business. At the top of that list was cutting people in on the profits. That when you get everybody tied in and pull the same direction, that things really work. And then you tell them that Gary Johnson is an athlete. I've been an athlete my entire life. Tell them that I climbed Mount Everest. But don't tell them that I conquered Mount Everest, because I didn't. I got really lucky. But you know what? I'm disciplined and I'm determined and I work really hard and I do what it takes. I hunker down. And I think you want someone as President of the United States that's capable of hunkering down. And you tell them that this guy, Gary Johnson, was a two-term former governor of New Mexico. So talk about kooky ideas. Well, this guy got to govern for 8 years in the state of New Mexico. Well, what was he known for? Well, he was known for vetoing more bills, more spending bills, than the other 49 governors in the country combined. And how did that work out in New Mexico? He got reelected the second time by a bigger margin than the first time. I vetoed 750 bills while I was governor of New Mexico. I had thousands of line item vetoes as governor of New Mexico. I took line item veto to a new art form. My first year in office, the president, the Republican whip, Senate Republican whip, passed legislation, Republican, a dog and cat exercise bill. A bill that, short of my signature, would have become law, mandating that dogs and cats by pet stores be exercised 3 times a week for 2 hours a day.
What about the fish?
Terrific idea. Terrific idea. It's what pet stores should do. They should exercise their dogs and cats 2 hours a day, 3 times a week. But I vetoed that legislation because the next thing I was going to have to do was fund the dog and cat exercise police. The Libertarian candidate for president, Gary Johnson, is going to be the only candidate of the 3 that are going to be on the ballot in all 50 states, the only candidate of all the 3 who's going to govern under strict adherence to the United States Constitution. The Libertarian candidate for president, Gary Johnson, is the only candidate that, if elected, is going to declare peace.
Yeah!
Gary Johnson is the only candidate for president that doesn't want to bomb Iran.
Yeah!
Gary Johnson's the get out of Afghanistan and bring the troops home now.
Now.
Gary Johnson is the only candidate that is not going to use the United States military under any circumstances unless the United States is attacked. And if the United States is attacked, Gary Johnson will respond with the United States military.
Woo!
What do you tell your friends? They're going to ask you. Gary Johnson's the only candidate that is going to slash federal spending. Gary Johnson is the only candidate that's going to propose a balanced budget in the year 2013, which is a $1.4 trillion reduction in federal spending, and that means addressing entitlements, and that means a reduction in military spending to that tune. Gary Johnson's the only candidate that's calling for an end to the drug wars. Legalize.
Yeah!
That is genuinely talking about marriage equality. Gary Johnson believes that marriage equality is a federally guaranteed, that is a constitutionally guaranteed right that under the Constitution individuals are entitled to. Gary Johnson is the only candidate running for president that wants to abolish the income tax, the corporate tax, tax withholdings, the IRS.
Yeah.
I love the libertarian debate and the discussion. I am proposing to, in lieu of corporate tax, income tax, I am proposing a consumption tax, the fair tax. I love the debate and the discussion. I'm going to argue to you all that that is a template to bring about no tax, that no politician is going to raise the only federal tax, and that there will be great pressure to lower that federal tax, and that that's the template to no federal tax. Gary Johnson's the only candidate that wants to abolish the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah!
Means the TSA, and if Congress doesn't abolish or doesn't propose legislation to eliminate the Department of Homeland Security, Gary Johnson will make TSA as safe and less intrusive starting the day after he takes office. The Libertarian candidate for president, Gary Johnson, is the only candidate that's going to genuinely talk about free markets, promoting free markets. That means no tariffs. That means sound money. Gary Johnson, Libertarian candidate for president, is the only candidate that is talking about or proposing eliminating the Federal Department of Education. Return education to the states, to the municipalities, to parents. Gary Johnson is the only candidate that's talking about meaningful immigration reform, starting with the fact that individuals that want to come into this country and work is good for America. Gary Johnson's the only candidate, the Libertarian candidate is the only candidate that is going to ground Air Force One.
Yeah!
Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate for president, has more executive experience than the other two guys that he's running against.
Combined.
So what does government executive experience mean? You know, I want to say that of the 300 declared candidates that have run for president in the United States in this cycle, that combined, I have cut government spending than all the others combined. And that is really, really significant. So much is made about working with Congress. Working with Congress is code word for how we're going to spend money. That's working with Congress. I don't want to work with Congress.
Yeah!
I want to come at Obama hard from the left, civil liberties, and I want to come at Romney hard from the right, dollars and cents. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. A message that you need to send all your friends and family and associates, and the message that I'm sending to the world is, do me a favor, vote Libertarian just this one time and give me a chance as the Libertarian candidate for president to make a difference. And if it doesn't work out, then we can always go back to what it was, and that was tyranny. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be your spokesperson. Jeff's going to get back up. I think we're going to follow that with questions, comments, any insults that you have. In this process of questions, comments, insults, at the core of all this, I want to be the best spokesperson that I possibly can for libertarian ideals and beliefs. And I want you to believe that I can make this stuff happen. And it isn't just, I can, it's what I've done my entire life.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.